And welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to give you a complete repertoire for black against 24. So I'm going to show you how to play the Caro-Kann Defense. So this is the Caro-Kann Defense, and black's idea is basically to play d5. And why not to play d5 immediately? Well, the problem is white will take, and now we have to take back with the queen. And we would like to take back with the pawn, so we first play c6, d5, and when white takes, we take back with the c-pawn. Now white usually plays d4, grabbing the center, and we don't let white occupy the entire center, and we play d5. Now this is the starting position of the Caro-Kann Defense, I would say, and here white has three main options. So first of all, knight c3, defending this pawn, e5, the advanced variation, and the exchange variation, e takes d5. So let's start with e5. So white occupies the center, and white has a space advantage, but we're going to attack the center, and then we have a great square for the knight, and this bishop can come out. And then we'll play e6 and put pressure against this d4 pawn. So we start by playing c5, and now white usually plays c3. So if we take, white can take back with the pawn. Now this pawn can be taken. White can take this pawn, and now it's important to play e6, because if knight c6 trying to win back this pawn, there's bishop b5, and this is a little bit annoying. So we play e6, blocking this bishop but trying to get back this pawn. And once we get back this pawn, we'll have better control over the center. So white usually plays bishop e3, defending this pawn. And now we can attack these two pawns. And white's only good move is bishop b5, pinning this knight. And after knight e7, followed by knight f5, and we have a great position. I think black is really comfortable here. So d takes c5 is not a big problem. If I play c3, we can develop our knight. Now d takes c5 is not even an option because this pawn would be hanging. So on amateur level, people usually play knight f3. But I think this is a little bit inaccurate because it gives us the opportunity to put our bishop on c4. Doing that immediately is possible, but it gives white the option to take on c5. And we have to know what we do here. The problem is knight takes e5. Using this pin is not possible because white has this trick and we lose material. So instead I recommend to trade on d4 first, and then playing bishop g4. Now white can't take this pawn. White usually plays bishop e2. If white plays h3 at any point, let's say here, we will always take this knight because this d4 pawn is weak and this knight was defending it. So at some point we will probably take this knight, so it doesn't make too much sense for white to play h3. So white usually castles. We play knight e7, planning to play knight f5 to put pressure on the d4 pawn. And I think black's position is just much more comfortable than white's one. Let's say white develops the knight, we go knight f5, and now already we're threatening to win this pawn. So let's say bishop e3, and we always have this move queen v6, attacking this d4 pawn once more, and yeah, black is doing great here. So on the high level, people play bishop e2, avoiding this pin, and then playing knight f3. But here I recommend you to just wait and play a6, which is a useful move anyway. And after white plays knight f3, again we trade here and go bishop g4 with a similar position, I would say. So that was the advanced variation. Now knight c3 is the old main line, I think. White develops a knight, and we don't have a useful move here because white has the center, so we have to trade on e4. And now I recommend to challenge this active knight on e4. So this knight should take this probably because white doesn't want to lose more time. After that, you can see white has spent 3 moves with the knight to trade off our knight, which only has spent 1 move. So we've won some time. After knight takes, we take back with the e-pawn, opening this bishop. And now on amateur level, people usually play knight f3. But I think c3 is a little bit more accurate, which I'm going to show why in a second. But let's start with knight f3. White just develops the knight, maybe plans to develop the bishop somewhere and then castle. But here we have a great move, which white can, after which white can easily go wrong, knight to a6. What is this? So first of all, we might try, we have ideas with knight c7 and knight b4. For example, if bishop d3, we can attack this bishop, and the problem for white is white can't play bishop e2, because then black would be actually winning. So that's the first point. Also, let's say white prevents knight b4, then we can play knight c7 and develop our pieces like this. And this knight on c7 is really well placed. It protects a lot of squares. But of course, the main question is what happens if white takes our knight. This looks quite logical, because we don't want to play b takes a6. Then we have a terrible pawn structure. But fortunately for us, we have this great move, queen a5 check. And suddenly white will realize that something went wrong, because now we can take back the bishop with the queen, not ruining our pawn structure, and black is already better here. White can't castle, and let's say they go queen e2, we trade, and now after bishop f5, attacking this pawn, followed by a long castle. Black is just better in this endgame. We have the bishop pair, and at some point we'll strike with c5, opening even more files for our bishops. So the main move on the higher level is c3. The point is to delay the development of this knight, and white's plan is to play bishop d3, queen c2, and then maybe even knight e2. So white doesn't commit to knight f3. So here knight a6 is not a good move, because white can take, and now we don't have this fork anymore because this pawn is on c3. So instead, I recommend you to go bishop d6. White usually goes bishop d3, we castle, and here white usually plays queen c2, attacking this h7 pawn. Now we don't have to do anything yet about it. We can develop our rook with check, and white will probably play knight e2. That was the plan of white's setup. And here the modern main move, and also what I recommend, is to play h5. It looks a little bit weird to push this pawn all the way to h5, but the idea is white will probably castle kingset, and then we can advance our pawn. And after white plays h3, this diagonal is a little bit weakened, and we might have some ideas of building battery or something like that. And also knight g3 is never an option because of h4 at some point. So we're just gaining space on the king side. White usually castles. Now again we continue with our plan. Now h3 might be an option white has to watch out for. So white usually plays h3, just fixing this pawn on h4. And white is arguing that this pawn might be a little bit weak. But after knight d7, we plan to play knight f8, and white has no way to win this h4 pawn or even to attack it, and black is a comfortable position. So that was all about knight c3, and let's now come to the exchange variation. Now we take back with the c pawn, of course. That was our idea why we played c6. And now white's best move is probably bishop d3, because if knight f3 we can just develop this bishop anywhere here. So after bishop d3, white wants to stop the development of the c8 bishop because we can't go here, we can't go here. So we develop our knight instead. Now we attack the d4 pawn and hint at moves like knight b4. So white will place the move c3. And now if we play knight f6, white will not play knight f3 because of bishop g4, but instead bishop f4. And I think this position can be a little bit unpleasant for black, because after bishop g4, white has queen b3. So I think it's much simpler to play queen c7, stopping bishop f4, and yeah, if white plays knight f3 here, we have bishop g4, and black is already, I would say, more comfortable here, if not even objectively a little bit better, because if white castles, we have just a very easy play, and all of our pieces are placed greatly. So white usually plays h3, stopping this, so white prepares knight f3 or knight e2 even. And now we can strike in the center with e5. And now we threaten probably to play e4 or to take this pawn, so white will take. And after this trade, we have this isolated pawn, but we have a lead in development. So white can move this bishop or play knight f3, giving up this bishop, but white wants to trade in minor pieces because we have this isolated pawn. And here we can play knight f6, but I think this is a little bit unpleasant. White will castle and then maybe rook e1 check. So I recommend to play bishop d6, planning to put the knight on e7 so there's no check on e1. And of course the question is, what happens if white takes his pawn? Well, after knight e7, let's say the queen moves back to d1, we get this position where after a strong move b6 followed by bishop e7, black has just tremendous compensation for the pawn. All of black's pieces are really active, and and yeah, white has to be really careful here not to get in trouble quickly. And finally, there is also this variation. Instead of d4, white can develop these two knights instead, and this is the two knights variation. And here black has two options, bishop g4 and taking this pawn. Because if d4 is not a good move, knight e2, let's say we go c5, white will attack the center, and we're much worse, so don't go d4. Instead I recommend you to take this pawn and continue in a similar fashion like I just showed in the knight c3 d4 line. Now if white takes and d4 after knight is 6, this will just be a transposition. So, but white's main move is queen e2. Now white's idea is to take, and then we can take back with the e-pawn, and we would have to take back with the g-pawn, which is a little bit ugly. And also white sets a trap, so with that in mind, black might play knight d7, reinforcing this knight, but that would actually lead to a checkmate because this pawn is pinned and this knight blocks the queen. So please don't go knight d7. Instead you can just trade on e4. And now this queen looks active in the center, but we can attack it with knight e7 followed by knight f6. And black has a fine position. So I hope you enjoyed this video, how to play the Caro-Kann Defense. And yeah, see you in the next video.